What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I am your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown on the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories.
Sure.
I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with a guest and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Grace Lobo.
New York City.
What's up?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm excited we get to hang. This is cool.
Absolutely. Before we get too far into anything,
tell me.
Plug everything up front. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Plug all my stuff. You can find me on Instagram at @GKLobo. Please follow my Instagram. I sometimes post stand up there, so that's good. I run a show with my dear friend Anna Koppelman called Pucker Comedy. We do it monthly. Next one's April 3rd.
Anna, friend of the show.
Good friend of the show. She was on this show, year ago?
Yeah, about a year ago. We talked about how she was the real-life Serena Vanderwoodson.
Yeah, and that is her. That is her.
The Gossip Girl.
Yeah. And then I also have a newish podcast, new as of 2025, called Hill to Die On, which I do with my friend Greg Melly, who you're also buddies with.
Greg's been on the show a few times.
And you know what? I feel I'm the third and the last.
There you go.
Yeah, that's...
We've had Jack, Anna, Greg,
well,
and now you.
You finally just trickled down
to
Grace Lobo.
Well, because we've never actually met.
Yeah, this is such a fun way to actually meet.
Yeah, because I ran into Anna at the mics.
Sure. She's a better mic girl than I am.
And Greg at the mics as well. And then then Greg works at the Cellar, which I'm at all the time. So we all just kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
And then I remember when you guys were first starting the podcast, like when you were banking episodes, I remember because I go to the Cellar every Wednesday.
Sure.
And Greg and I would talk about it.
Right.
Because I have a bunch of them. And he was like, well, how many do you think we should bank? Like, do we check out the trailer? And then I was like giving him pointers. And then, Greg.
We need them.
Well, Greg, he was like, no, we actually like doing
Greg
it that way.
Greg has his own.
I was like,
well, that's why Greg.
Right, I'm just telling you what I see.
The whole premise of our podcast is like, Greg and I are both really stubborn people. Mm-hmm. So Greg will be like, this is how this is. And I feel like now that we've done it for not for that long, but we've been working on it for like almost a year at this point because we banked a ton of episodes at the beginning.
Which was smart.
Which was very, very needed.
That's what I kept pushing him.
Yes.
I was like, he's like, we think we're going to bank like 6. I think he said like 6.
No, we did 12.
And I was like, double that.
And
like,
especially because there's 4 of us who work on it. So it's just been, and they all work at the Cellar. Like, or Jacqueline doesn't anymore, but Jacqueline Laurie Edwards, who's Grace's girlfriend, and she produced our podcast, friend of the show as well. But she works at a restaurant. I have like a 9-to-5 corporate job. So like the scheduling.
Hence we're doing this on a Sunday.
You were like Thursday at noon and I was like, simply no. And
you were like, I was like, Thursday's actually the worst day of the week.
Thursday is actually, I have my department meeting on Thursday. Can't do Thursday, but yeah.
So Hill to Die On, this is a great podcast because it was born out of you two being stubborn. But the argument that you guys got into.
Yes.
Because I was privy to all this information. Greg was like,
I love this.
She's
crazy.
She thinks she could take a bobcat.
Okay, here's
or
the
a mountain
thing.
lion or a
bobcat, not a mountain lion. Yeah. And that's an important distinction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because sometimes when you tell okay, so basically the premise was I was at a party and someone was like, do you think that a 200-pound, 6-foot-tall man could fight a bobcat? And I was like, obviously. Also, I think that I, like a 5'5", 150-pound woman, could also take a bobcat. That's crazy. What are you guys talking about?
Because a bobcat, I mean, I go to the zoo a lot. I love animals. A bobcat is,
and I love this about you. I love that you go to the zoo a lot.
It's not much bigger than a house cat, like a big house cat.
It's 45 pounds.
Yeah.
I've looked into this at this point extensively now that I have a podcast based on the concept of me fighting a bobcat.
The entire podcast is based on this.
I've looked into it at length, but Greg and I got in an argument about it because I said this. He was like, that's fucking crazy. You can't fight a bobcat. And I was like, yeah, I can. Yes, I can fight a bobcat. So yeah, that's how it was. That kind of started. It was after I did his show. I didn't know him that well at the time. We were like friendly. I was better friends with Jack. And then we just got in like a 3-hour argument about it. Yeah. And then I told Anna separately, I was like, I never thought I would do a podcast. And then I said to her, I was like, if I ever did a podcast, I feel like me and Greg would have a podcast where we just get in fights about takes. Yeah. And Greg, I guess, separately said to Jack the same thing.
Oh,
and
really?
Then we were at another show, our friend Steph Brown's show, and we hadn't seen each other in a while. And we both kind of like, it was such a like, hey, like I kind of have like a podcast idea crush on you. And he kind of like, I can't remember which of us floated it.
Ask so-and-so if they like me.
Like, and maybe Jack even floated it because like Greg was kind of like shy about doing it, and he was like, yeah, I know, I just thought like you were so busy you wouldn't like have time to do it or like want to do it.
That's so cute.
That's so cute. And I was like, no, I wanted to do it too.
And it's like a full production team. Like you said, you've got people like it's just me here, but
no, I'm also impressed that it's just you because we have 4 of us.
Yeah.
We also have our friend Will Bryant. He does a lot of the mixing and the tech.
Because you guys do all that stuff. And it's just one of those things. Like I've been podcasting for years.
Because when did you start this?
So I started this. The idea for this came about in 2010 when I was in college.
Gotcha.
I recorded. That's back when it was just called Drinking Buddies.
Sure.
And my best friend, shout out Daniel Bearcat, the Bearcat.
Shout out Daniel. Not a bobcat, Bearcat.
Bearcat.
Yeah.
Him and I, he was super into tech. So in 2010, it was a lot harder to get an RSS feed and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But he was super into tech. So we recorded like 5 or 6 episodes.
Oh, hell yeah.
I was like, this is a great idea. We never released him. It just kind of, my alcoholism was out of control. So it just kind of faded
and congrats,
away.
Yeah.
And then during the pandemic.
Right.
So short answer, 2020.
Wait, so when did you get sober?
2018.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool.
So 2020, I went to rehab in 2013, promptly got sober in 2018.
Nice.
So 2020 was...
bam.
Yeah, right there.
That quick 5-year timeline.
Yeah, when I started this show. But then I started I have a sports show with a very good friend of mine called Cheers from the Press Box.
Very cool.
Me and my good buddies, Daniel Torado and Matt Fulstron, who are bigger comics in the city. Matt lives in LA now, but we started a podcast called The Power of How, which was a positivity podcast.
Wait, I love.
Yeah, and so we started, so like I had a lot of experience because I've been on both ends of it. I have been like the brand new person watching some 12-year-old Indian kid on YouTube tell me how to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And then I've also been the guy where like when we started The Power of How, like Matt had a ton of podcasting experience and I had more experience with like the video and stuff. So like we just like did it together. So it's just been, an arduous road of learning.
It's a lot of learning.
The clips that I have, see, you're already ahead of it because you have people to cut clips and stuff who know kind of what they're doing. Yeah. The clips I have from like when I first started doing this show are horrific.
That's
because there's no video. So it's just the cover art look like one of those little sound on things. Sure. And it was so bad. And I have some podcasts with some really big comics when I first moved to New York because I didn't know any better. So I was just asking these big comics to come on the show. And some of them did.
Why not?
But I don't have any video of it. Yeah. Like, I'm like, come on. Like, I had Caitlin Palufo on and
it's
there's
just
no
AI.
video.
It's AI for voice.
It's just her. Yeah.
So, you like feed it a couple of her clips. It's like, I can do Caitlin Palufo.
Yeah. But so it's good for you guys because you have this whole team.
Yeah, it helps. And it's fun too because it's nice. Like, I love Greg, but like, sometimes we're talking and I'm like, it's nice having like an audience. Yeah. Like, and it helps us gauge like, oh, are we being boring? Mm-hmm. Like we have like, if Jack and Will aren't laughing, we're like, okay, well, this isn't a...
Yeah, well, and because yours is like strictly, you guys really follow the It's supposed to be funny.
It's a comedy podcast.
I've actually noticed the opposite with this show.
Really?
Because, I have people, and it's not like, it's a comedy interview show, because I have a lot of actors and comedians and like musicians on, but it's not always funny.
Sure, funny people talking about...
Exactly. Yeah. And so I've had it before, like when I first got into a studio, like a legit studio, they had that whole thing where there was the glass window where you could see the producer. Yeah. And if I had guests sit on the side where they could see the producer, they'd be
like, I'm bombing.
Well, no, and they would also be like, oh, this story's too sad. Oh. Or like, I don't want to talk about this because they don't mind talking about it into a microphone.
Yeah.
But they don't want to talk to somebody else.
It's way more intimate.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It got and then finally that studio moved and no one had windows anymore. And I was like, thank God.
That's a good. We've even had like, I've noticed, because now our podcast has been out for like almost 3 months. And when it first was coming out, I talk about anything on stage, but it's so different talking like.
When it's recorded? And
like just chatting with like, because I'll even post clips that are like, I don't know, like things that are like sexual or things that are like very personal in other ways. And like that, I'm like, yeah, this is but it's so written and like practiced and rehearsed and like fine tuned.
It's a bit. Yeah.
And it's a bit. And I'm like, these are the parts of it that I want to share
so
and that I feel.
Just say, it's a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I can be like, this is true, but like, it's a really fine tuned version.
Yeah.
And talking in a podcast format where you're just like, oh, that was I'd be running my mouth on there. Like sometimes I'll be like, and Jack will be like, can I post this clip? And I'll be like, actually like
no.
Yeah.
No.
But even like since it's been out now, I've noticed I've gotten way more used to it where I'm like, yeah, I don't care as much about like.
Yeah, when I first started, I used to talk all sorts of shit about people.
Yeah, I'll name names and then I'm like, whoa, cut that.
And then, so like I'm very big on, and I tell guests this all the time, I will mark stuff. Yeah. Like when someone will just, they'll be like, yeah, I was hanging out with my buddy Steven, and I'll just like look up and write down.
Don't say Steven.
because I know in about 6 hours, I'm going to get a DM at like 12 o'clock at night, like, hey, can you cut
Can you believe that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I've also, like, I still talk a lot of shit, but that's because the stuff I now, to your point about the filter, the stuff I say on the podcast now, I stand on. Like, I stand
same.
by it.
So now I'm getting better at it.
Like, like if I talk shit about a club or a booker or another comedian, it's
they
like
earned it. They deserve that.
And they're very well aware of how I feel about the situation. So it's like
they're not finding out from your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's not. Yeah.
Well, your podcast was actually one of my first exposure because Anna did your podcast in me naming a name immediately. Anna did your podcast and she had talked about like people from her past and had like seen that they like listened or something and they like reached out to her, and that was like really my first exposure to like people I know having like, it's more just the idea of like, these people who are kind of fringe people in your life at this point, but seeing you on a podcast and being like, oh, I'm gonna go listen to that is a scary concept.
It's a weird proposition, especially too because, you know, not to toot my own horn, but the podcast has grown quite a bit. So it's like, you know, I've had like Joe List and Cam Patterson, Emma Willman, like all these
Grace
like,
Lobo.
Grace Lobo, Greg Melly.
Yeah, exactly. Anna Coleman.
Jack
the list goes on.
But because of that, sometimes it is funny because I'll have younger comedians on or smaller comedians on, like not as well known comedians, which this is my standard bearer for who I have on the podcast. Especially when it comes to comics, if I see you at a show or a mic, and I think, and you make me laugh, I think you're very fun, because it's subjective. I'm like, oh, this is funny. Yeah. Then I'll be like, hey, do you want to come on the show? Sure. So I don't care if you've been doing it. You know, I'd like it to be longer than like 6 months, but I've had people on where they've tricked me. Yeah, I've been like, oh, you were so good at the mic, and they're like, yeah, I just started like 6 months ago, and I'm
annoying.
Like, fuck off.
I hate when people do that.
But like
suck for 2 years like the rest of us. Come on, asshole.
But so that's kind of the barrier to entry for like having people on. Yeah. So it is crazy because sometimes I'll have people on who have like no sort of real following at all. But then they'll reach out and be like, oh my God, like 10 of my friends from college listen. And I'm like, that's nuts. Yeah. Because to your point, it's like, they're fringe people, but then they see you're on a podcast and it's relatively well produced. Yeah. They're like, oh, this might be like a real thing. I'm curious.
So what does she think? Yeah. No, it's a funny concept.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
So how long are you from? You're not from New York.
I'm from Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah. I currently live 8 blocks from where I was born. So.
Wow.
Yeah. I've really traveled far and wide. I was born on the Upper East Side, then moved to Jersey, grew up there. And I've been in the city for almost 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something I ask all my guests because the arts are such a niche thing. What got you into stand-up? Not like very specifically, like was it your parents were really into stand-up? Did you stumble upon it on YouTube? Like how did you even find stand-up comedy?
So very funny family. My whole family's funny. I have 3 brothers. They're all funny. My parents are both really funny. My dad went to college with Jim Gaffigan. And we would, exactly. And so watch all of those like Jim Gaffigan DVDs. This goes back to what we were talking about. Your dad kind of knew Jim. Yeah. So he was like, we got to watch all this stuff. We got to watch all of it. And they weren't like super tight. My dad does famously love to be like, I was funnier than Jim in college. Like, everybody. And my mom will be like, right, but yeah. He probably knows. My dad's probably drunkenly said it to him.
Yeah,
so.
probably.
But he'll be like, yeah, he loves to say that. And that's like I don't know. He likes to.
So that's how you found it, though.
Well, yeah. So my dad, we'd always watch the like Beyond the Pale, and like Jim Gaffigan had all, and he's a clean comedian.
Did
so
you ever
it was
see
like
his original Comedy Central Presents where he has the farm behind him?
I don't think so.
So that's where Hot Pocket started.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay, I gotta keep an eye on that.
That one's from like, because I started watching comedy when I was 12, and I would
Sure.
record all the Comedy Central Presents on VHS. And that was one of the ones I had.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it's him because he grew up on a farm, so it's him
Right,
with like a farm behind him.
Nice.
And yeah, but that's where he was like, Pockets.
Pockets. Yeah,
So-
it's a fun. But we watched that as a kid, and like my brothers and I, we loved it. And we'd watch it all over and over. We had like all of his DVDs, and we watched them over and over. And like when he had a new special, we'd watch that. So that was kind of like growing up, and then like getting older and watching more of it. I wouldn't say I was like crazy into stand up specifically. I loved like SNL and like comedy as a kid. And then in college.
What generation of SNL were you? Andy Samberg and those
yeah,
guys?
like around then. Yeah, like
Dick in a
I'm
Box, that kind of stuff?
right around then. Like I graduated high school in 2014. So that was kind of that like mid. I know, sorry, not to date myself.
Oh shit. Oh,
yeah.
06.
Yeah, I am an infant, but yeah, that was kind of all the like early comedy stuff that I liked.
What was the first thing you tried?
I
And when was
tried,
it?
so in college, I wanted to do stand up, and comedy was like a big thing at my college, and there were,
What college did you
I went
go
to
to?
Georgetown, so a lot
Okay.
of like,
Go Hoyas.
go Hoyas. Just watched them lose in the Big East tournament, first round on Wednesday. That
There
was
we go.
pretty, go
Patrick Ewing
Hoyas.
still coaching?
No, now it's Ed Cooley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sports fan,
Which
huh?
is better. Oh, you know me. It's you know me, just a girl who likes to pretend to like sports for attention.
Anna has that great bit.
Yeah, she's a funny girl.
So
But
you wanted to do it, but
I
you
wanted to
didn't.
do it. All my friends the Georgetown improv team has had like a lot of famous, like John Mulaney, like Nick Kroll, all those people were on the Georgetown. Mike Birbiglia went there and like all this stuff. So one of my best friends was on the improv team. He's currently my roommate actually. But like I always was like, this is so cool. I would love to do this. But I was like, I don't know. I was just like, I was scared, I guess.
Yeah.
And then at the end of college, there was like a stand-up, like one of the girls on the improv team was going to teach like a stand-up workshop.
Okay.
And I went to that. And I was
How
like,
are you just following because you're not on the improv team? Are you just
no,
like
but I was just
following
buddies
along,
with
or-
them.
Okay,
I would go to all
got
their
it,
shows.
got
We
it.
would host the after party at my apartment sometimes. Like
Okay.
I was friends
So
with
you
all
were
of them.
in the world. You just
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
doing
I
it.
hung out with all of them. Like I would say I was in that friend group. And like
Mm-hmm.
Alex, my roommate, is still like, again, we live together now.
Yeah.
One of my best friends. So like that was kind of just, I was around it a lot and like just never kind of felt ready to do it. Towards the end of college, I started off being like a business major.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to go do like investment banking, which like, no. But I think like I kind of, as college was going on, I was like, oh, like I've always thought I could do stand up. Multiple people were like, you are really funny. You should do this.
Yeah.
And like, I was finally towards the end of college, I was like, okay, I'll try this. Tried it at this workshop. Did it once after college, like in 2018. And then I moved to Ireland for a year and did not do any comedy while I was there. Yeah, I know. The day before St. Patrick's Day, going to Ireland. And then when I came back, it was COVID. And I didn't really start stand-up until like summer, like July 2023, maybe.
Oh, wow. So
like
yeah.
2.5 years ago. Yeah.
So you had thought about it. It's been
For a long
It had
time.
been on your radar
Yeah.
for almost like 7 years.
For a long time, I wanted to do
God,
it.
that's
And I
nuts.
probably wanted to do it. I remember being in like early college and in high school and being like, I would want to like be on SNL, which that's not what I would want anymore. Like I'm definitely, it's a stand up. I'm not a
Yeah.
sketch person. Like it's stand up for sure. But like, yeah, just being like, oh, I would do that. Like,
It's so funny when people are like, "What about SNL?" And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't.
That's not
I'm
me.
Not a sketch.
That's not my
guy.
skill.
I was like, I know plenty of people who do stand up
Yeah.
who are phenomenal sketch
Same.
people. Kellen Breen, shout out, but and his girlfriend Becca, they make great sketches.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not a.
I'm not. I've been in people's sketches too, and I'll be in your sketch if you want. If you want.
Shout out.
I would love to be in your sketch as a background role. I like doing like punch ups. Like I'm in a sketch group, and like I like directing the sketches, and like I'll be like, it'd be funny if you said this. Like this would be a funny thing to do. I like that part. I'm such a bad actor. I sit there and I'm like, I'm being someone's girlfriend in the sketch. And I'm like, yeah, like it's so.
Totally.
I'm just smiling like I'm not an actor.
Well, and that's the other thing too with sketches. Because I'm by nature, I'm a storyteller.
Sure.
Like I'm not a set up punch guy. I'm more of a storyteller with tags.
Yeah.
But there's plenty. I mean, going back to Greg, there's a bit that I have where he comes up to me and he's like, dude, that's a sketch, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a sketch, bro.
Yeah, and that's a good Greg.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I don't have it.
It's a bit.
It's a bit.
I'm not going to turn it.
I have even I have clips not clips. I have bits that people will be like, that's a front facing camera, like direct to camera, this kind of TikTok bit. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's not what I do.
It's a bit on stage
it's
with
a bit.
the microphone.
I get on stage with the microphone and I do my bit. And that's what it is.
And it's crazy too, because that front facing camera and like all those trends, like the algorithm changes every so often, but
that's what they want now.
Yeah. I have a friend who has an in at Google and he was like, no, it's original content, like sketches and front facing camera. And I go, well, I guess I'm just out of the algorithm then.
Yeah. Cause someone asked me the other day, cause I don't have a lot of followers, and he and I were having a conversation. It was a guy I just met, and he had never seen my stand-up, and then I went up, he watched my set, and he was like, we were joking about how he had like 17K, and I have like 2,000 followers, and he was like...
Nothing to scoff at.
Yeah. And he was like, that's like a 17K follower set right there. Why don't you have more? And we're talking content, and he was like, well, like, what kind of content do you want to make? And I was like, I don't want to make content.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
the only thing that has saved me is the podcast.
Yeah.
Because especially in New York, it's a lot of like tight fives.
Yeah.
And you can't, like, especially if it's a bigger club, you're like, well, I'm not going to bomb.
No.
I want to be passed here.
Yes.
So I'm not going to like do new stuff or do crowd work. Like I'm going to do my stuff.
Yep. So
the problem I've run into, and I talked to other comics about this, is I've got tape on like the last like 12 like real show sets that I've done. The same, it's a lot of the same jokes.
Yeah, and I don't want to burn that.
Yeah,
like,
well, it's not because I'm not writing. It's just because this is what's I know this
good.
is going to go.
Yeah.
And so it's weird because I just have like 7 variations of the same bit,
Yeah.
and they're all different, obviously, because of the way the crowd reacts and how you're feeling and stuff. But I've burnt my tight 5 is totally burned.
Yeah,
it's all on the internet, and now but it's true. Like I talked to a buddy of mine who has quite a few like 500,000 followers. And so I ask him for advice.
That's nothing to scoff at.
Yeah. So I'll ask him, and I have another friend of mine who's like in the millions. So I'll ask them and I'll be like, hey, like, what do I have to do? Well, and I'll be like, I love this bit, but I already posted it like 6 months ago. They go, nobody remembers. Post it again.
That's what people have been
telling. Like,
no one remembers.
A different set. Yeah. Post it again. Post it again.
Yeah.
They were like, how many sets do you have of it? I was like, 7. They're like,
post them
all
all.
7. Yeah. They're like, nobody cares.
That's the thing that I've been really, really realizing recently is people are like, because I just recently got a good clip of like one of my favorite jokes I have. Every time I'm like, could it be a little better? Like before I post it, like, do I wait until it's like even bigger? Like,
but then because I had that. I had when I did my one-man show that nobody saw.
Sure.
Well, a few people saw it, but when I did that, and I mean like we're talking about in the thousands.
Sure.
It's at like 485 on YouTube.
Gotcha.
And I remember I didn't want to release it, and then a friend of mine was like, what are you afraid of? And I go, I'm afraid no one will see it. And I dumped all this money and worked so hard for no reason. And they go, yeah, but you did the show.
And no one will see it if you never post it.
Yeah, exactly.
Then really no one sees it.
And then they were like, it's not for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, you still did the show. It's still out there. Like, you can still point people towards it. So I ended up putting it up. But I remember the same thing. I would cut clips from the show, and I'd be like, this clip is going to blow up.
And then it doesn't.
And I worked on it for days. Like, normally we can cut a clip in like 17 minutes.
Yeah.
I worked on this for days.
Sure.
And it got maybe 1,000 views.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to crawl in a hole and die.
Yes.
So now I just do the whole, like, just cut it.
Just post it and like fingers crossed. Like pray to the algorithm gods and see what whatever they want. Like they'll take it. Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So you got into stand-up in 2023. Do you remember the first mic you went to?
Yes. I went to the 4 p.m. Friday mic at Broadway Comedy Club.
So you were already in New York?
Yes. I'd been living in New York. I moved to New York in 2020.
Okay.
Like towards...
Post-college?
Like, post-college.
What did you end up getting your degree in? You said
I
you
still
went
got
for
a business degree, but I just was like, oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
That's not... I have a degree in like international business.
Okay. But, I showed up, and my uncle who helped me get to college was like, to play football, he was like, business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to have a degree in.
So I took a political science class as like an elective and all other business classes.
Nice.
And I was like, Oh no, I'm doing political
Poli-sci,
science.
yeah,
I was like, I'm a child of divorce. I've been playing politics since I was 12 years old.
I'm
doing
this. This is what I want.
What do you mean? One country's mad at the other country for something they said?
There's 2 Christmases for this country?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I totally.
Yeah.
So I changed my major almost immediately to political science.
Where'd you go to college?
Florida Atlantic University.
Okay, cool.
Go Owls.
Go Owls. Yeah. Owls.
Owls.
Nice.
Burrowing owls.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so
They're feisty.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Also at the Bronx Zoo, which I found out. But yeah, so then I got a minor in American history, and I was like, let's go to law school. And then
Whoa, did you go to law school?
No, drugs. I got accepted, and then drugs and cocaine.
Classic.
And the classic. I was like, I'll take a semester off.
That's business school.
Fast forward 10 years.
You could have done business school and cocaine. You would have crushed it. You had you should have stayed a business major. Your uncle was onto something.
But it's very funny though when we find, because I say this all the time, and it's I don't mean to sound douchey or prophetic, but it is one of those things where it's like people work their entire lives to find something that they care about.
100%. Yeah.
And like Tracy, my girlfriend, who I'm contractually obligated to mention on every show, found it. Like she's always wanted to be a teacher, and now she's a teacher.
Yeah.
When I saw Dane Cook rip his shirt off on the Comedy Central Presents, I went, I want to do something like that.
I want to take my shirt off.
Because, well, not anymore, but like I would watch, I say this all the time, I watch Mitch Hedberg and Greg Giraldo and all those guys, and I was like, oh, I love stand-up because I was a depressed kid and it made me laugh for 30 minutes or whatever it was. But I was like, I could never do that. Yeah. Like the way Mitch Hedberg's brain works, I was like, I could never do that.
But you could never do that. Yeah. But you can do that
So then when I saw what Dane was doing, and I grew up, my dad rips on the guitar. Like I grew up around people who were like in bands and stuff like that. So I was like, and then that was his whole set, was like being a rock star, but as a comedian. And I was like, oh, and he gets a lot of shit now, but he was the guy for so long. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. That's what I can do that. Yeah, yeah. And so that's kind of how I found it. And people will work their whole, so for you, once you start doing mics and you're like, oh no, I'm going to do this.
I feel so lucky to have found, like, I feel like I'm 28 right now. And I feel like a lot of my friends are like, what am I doing? Yeah. Like a lot of people are having the like, what is my life right now?
Quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
Taylor
and
Tomlinson had a whole
she really did. Yeah. And I feel like one of the things I've been the most grateful for in the last like 2 years, I would say, is to be like, for all of the struggles of like, like how do you figure out how to have a job and also do stand up and like all of that, making all of that work, but just to have the clarity of like, oh, this is the thing I want to be doing, I'm supposed to be doing, I found it. Yeah. And not have to have that. And all the other, all the other shit in my life that's like totally up in the air, that I'm like, all my friends are like engaged and I'm out here like, but I'm like, I know what I love doing and what I like to have that figured out is such a like, oh my God, it's such a gift.
I didn't find it. I mean, I didn't find that until I was 30. So I started doing stand-up in 2009. But again,
30, I was 26. And for a man and a woman, that is actually, those are the same ages.
Super parallel. But like when I got sober in 2018, it was like 2 or 3 months into like being like, the sober I am now. Gotcha. So I'd gone to rehab. I had gotten like 6 months together or a year together. And I could never stay sober. So this last time, wake up in the hospital, almost die. And I'm like.
And that was your 30th birthday?
That was my 30th birthday. And I was like, this is going to be super sad. I was just by myself. Okay. Just super upset that my life had turned out the way it did. Because I was supposed to go to law school and all this stuff. That's what the whole show is about. The one-man show is about like how you go from here to down here to get back to here. Yeah. And so I remember talking to someone that I know in my super secret society. And I was like, hey.
I wonder what it is.
I was like, it's anonymous, or I would tell you. But I remember saying to them, I was like, hey, if my life is now 2 jobs, the gym, and a meeting every day, you can have it back. Like I don't have any purpose.
Damn.
Like this is, and it was something that was very like depressing at the time.
I get that.
And I remember he was like, okay, well, it's 2 things. One, you have to work with others. Like you have to do more service work. And he goes, you have to find something you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And it was actually him on the phone saying, you love stand-up. Why don't you try that again?
Awesome.
And then I just, like you said, I was like, oh, this is now what I'm doing.
It clicks.
It took so long, away. But then it clicked. And I was like, oh, this isn't like a fun hobby where I get drunk with my friends and get on stage. I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes, this is my whole
This is the thing.
Life. And it's funny, like, I feel like I've noticed in the last few years, like, I've had a lot of, like, friend upheaval stuff. And, like, finding this at the same time as that was going on, just realizing like people who don't understand that this is your entire life. Like, I mean, it's not like I love my friends, I love my family, I love all this other stuff, but like I can't imagine doing anything else.
Well, I say it all the time, and it's my sobriety, obviously, because I don't have anything without that. So it's my sobriety, then comedy, then everything else.
Yeah.
I say it, you know, I've missed weddings to do shows. I've, you know, missed family stuff because of comedy. Like, but it's like, in my head, it's never a choice.
No,
like it's not.
This
like,
is work.
Yeah, people. Well,
but I love it.
Yeah, and people will be like, "Oh, are you going to do this?" And it's like, "No, I'm going.
Yeah,
like
I have
next
a show.
week, I'm going to LA." It's like, "No, I'm going to LA."
Yeah,
and they're like, they're like, "Well, aren't you gonna?" And I'm like, "No, I'm confused about why you're confused. Like, it's not even a thing."
It's just like a thing where it's like, this is my favorite thing in the world to do. It's so fun, but it's also like a thing that feels like a process and like something that builds and like you can make it into something too, which is just like. It's so cool.
Well, that's why I've always liked working in restaurants for that same thing. It's like I get to determine what I'm worth.
Yeah.
By how many tables I take, by how long I want to stay there, by how many shifts I pick up.
Sure.
And it's the same thing in comedy. It's like you could go to like a couple mics a week and that's it. Which is like at this point, because I had done all those shitty mics when I was first coming in.
Sure.
So like I only go to like maybe 4 or 5 mics a week. But when I first moved to New York.
To me, that's a ton.
But when I first moved to New York, I was going.
Oh, like you're the 20
like
mic a week.
10 to 15 mics a week.
Yeah.
And even before I moved to New York, when I was back in Florida, I was doing like shows and mics like every single day.
Yeah.
And even before that, like when I first started comedy in 2009, I was going to mics like on occasion, but I was still doing the mics and stuff. So it is crazy to think like, no, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
And my favorite feeling, and then we'll get into some of the stories, but because sometimes my audience is like, you talked about comedy for an hour. But my favorite feeling is knowing someone from like the podcast or from like a mic, and then they invite you on their show.
Yeah.
And then you do well. And they're like, that was really good. And you're like, yeah, I didn't move to New York.
Yeah, I'm good at comedy, idiot.
It's like I didn't move 1,000 miles because I was okay at this.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'll have people come to my show and they'll be like, oh, you're really good at comedy. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like, because I think also sometimes pursuing your dream can look a lot like ruining your life.
Yes.
Because it's like,
very much so.
I have a degree from a good college. I could do like I don't know. I could be making a lot more money. Like I could be succeed. And a lot of my friends are doing that. But instead I was like, nah, I'm going to kind of coast at my job so that I can like throw it all into comedy and like post all my secrets on the internet. And like,
oh, I get it.
It looks like ruining your life but it does for every person who's ever been successful. Like,
it doesn't work until it works.
Yeah,
and then when it works, everyone is.
Yes.
And I'm saying this as an athlete. Like I played college football. I have a lot of friends. Well, not a lot. I have a couple friends who went to the NFL.
Sure.
But I remember even me being like, when I would talk to them, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm going to try to go to the league," and I'd be like, right.
Yeah.
Like that seems crazy.
But like,
and then they make it, and you go, "Yeah, I knew it."
It's the believing in yourself is so lame until it works.
Yeah.
And you just need to find people who believe in you the whole time, because then those people are people who don't want to pursue an art or anything crazy, who just want the like regular like white collar job.
Met those people.
But some of those people believe in you so hard, and that's a crazy person to meet, where you're like, you don't see this for yourself, but for some reason you believe in me, and it's I've
got one in the other room now.
It's what a gift, because you also meet the people who are like, they're like, no, your job is like, you have a 9-to-5 job, and and then you buy a house maybe, and that's what your life is.
Well, and it's that whole idea. Because I had dated someone in the past who was very much like, no, I go to work, I come home, I drink a bottle of wine, I watch my shows, I hang out, like, and that's just. And I remember getting so frustrated, being like, don't you have anything you're passionate about? Because you get in those like relationship arguments where you're just like throwing the gloves off, and you're like, all right, well, let's get into it.
You don't care about anything. Yeah.
And I remember them just being like, well, I kind of like this and I like that, and I was like, well, I could build you a website. Like, it won't be great, but I can let's do something with it. And they're just like, nah, I just want to watch reruns of Sex and the City and drink my bottle of wine.
But people get frustrated if you're the other kind. Like, there's HBO's Girls, the best show of all time. There's an episode where Lena Dunham is like, I just want every day to feel like as exciting as if I'm moving to Paris. And like, I feel like a lot of comics and artists do have that mindset of like, I want every day to feel so special and cool.
That's why a lot of us are addicts.
Yes. But because it's like, wait, no, every day should be really fun. And I think there's people who are like, no, sometimes you just wake up, you go to the gym, you go to work, you come home, you watch a show. And sometimes I need those days too. But
yeah, everybody. But one of the coolest things, especially about living in New York now, because I'll talk to my friends back in Florida and they're like, yeah, but I have a house for half of what you're paying in rent. And
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
you live in Florida, dude.
well, and it's also like, yeah, but I could go to the Cellar on a random night just to grab a burger and run into the most famous comedians in the world.
And they know me.
A couple of which know me.
Yeah,
and it's like, I can't get that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like the fact that someone at the Cellar is a regular at my restaurant.
Yeah.
And I remember they came in one time and I wasn't even working. And I've told the story a million times, but it's one of my favorite things. They're pretty high up at the Cellar.
Sure.
As far as like running the Cellar.
Right.
And they came into the restaurant and
It's Greg Melly.
Shout out Greg. But one of the servers, I wasn't even working. One of the servers goes, "Oh, one of the people that works here does comedy." Because in their notes, it says like VIP, whatever the comedy Cellar, blah, blah. Because I put all that in their notes because they're a regular.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, make sure they get...
Treat them well. Yeah.
And then that person looked at the server and goes, everybody knows Brennan. And
That's
I was
so,
like,
that's so
you
cool.
can blow my brains out right now.
That's
I'm
awesome.
set.
That's sick. I love that.
Like, I'm not past there. Like, I've done a couple of shows there. But like, it's like... just being able to be
being
like
around and being known is
bumping into like Sam Morril and being like, yo, what's up, man?
Buddy.
And then just talking.
Yeah.
And then like other people I know from the open mics walking by and being like, how
does
do
Brandon know him?
this guy? Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, what kind of friends?
I even had that, like, people who, my friends will message me and they'll be like, every time I see like someone's like a reel come up that's like a New York based comedian, I'll click on them and see if you guys follow each other, and you always follow them. All these like, and I'm like, well, yeah, I know them. Like, they're like,
it's crazy because when I go back home to visit my grandma, she watches all those like CBS shows, like the shows like the Law and Orders and SVU, like who they're built for. And I've had friends like Onika McLean's been on there, and like Travis P's been on there, and so it's so funny to be like, oh, it's my friend. Or like you'd see a commercial for animal control, and I'm like, oh, Michael Rowland, that's my buddy. Yeah, I was just texting with him yesterday.
Funny guy.
My grandma was like, wait, you know these people?
Oh, wait, your grandma has an accent?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
I'm second generation Eastern European.
Whoa, okay, very cool.
So my grandmother still talks like she's, and I'm like, you've been here for 6 years.
She's doing a bit,
cut it out.
Please. You're doing it for attention, please, grandma.
So let's talk about it. You went to Georgetown.
Yes, yeah.
In high school, popular, not popular, ton of friends?
I wouldn't say I was
theater kid?
Definitely not popular. Band kid.
What'd you play?
I played the euphonium.
What is the
euphonium? Pretty cool instrument. It is like a tuba but smaller.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to be pretty big to play the tuba.
Yeah.
Did like swim team. I was like a well-rounded. I was definitely one of the like smart kids.
It's considered a brass instrument?
Brass, yeah.
Okay. Woodwind, brass,
strings, percussion. I think those are the ones. You're a musician.
No, my dad is an awesome musician.
Okay, very cool.
I played the saxophone and
You're a musician.
Taught myself how to play the piano, but I haven't done that stuff in a long time.
Nice.
I can still do dun 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 dun. And if I ever see a piano, you better believe I'm doing 100 years.
When I walk into a room and
the opening riff for
see
100
a piano,
years,
that slaps. I can play the opening of. I mean, I've played piano as a kid, but I can play like the beginning of Piano Man. You say that in a room, you go, please, you guys, hold on.
And then once you get to after the opening,
I'm like, and I don't remember the rest. I can play the intro to so many songs. People get so mad at me because I can play the intro to like Don't Stop Believin'. I can play the intro to like all these songs. The intro to like, I don't know, like,
and you're just like, that's it. All right,
and then I'll be like, you guys want Love Song by Sarah Bareilles? The first 2 bars, like, great.
So did you have an idea that you wanted to go to Georgetown?
My dad went there, and then
Is it Ivy League?
No, but it's a Catholic school, so they can't be in the Ivy League.
Okay,
but it is
Georgetown and like Wake Forest. Some of those schools are considered
they're all
like top tier.
They're all good colleges, But I was a very like, my identity as a kid was definitely like, I'm one of the smart kids, and always had been since I was like little, and I was like one of the, like, my high school like ranked students, so it was like, you knew the top 10 kids in your grade or whatever, so I was in that group. And then when I went to college, I was no longer like the smartest kid, so I feel like that was, but I didn't drink until I got into college. I didn't start drinking until like the end.
Were you around it?
Not really. And in fact, like, I had a lot of my friend group, we were the like nice, well-rounded girls, I would say, was like who I hung out with. Mostly girls in that like well-rounded kind of group. And then in the like smart kid group, which one person would lovingly called the nerd herd, it was the kids who were all in like, I'm in 8 AP classes this semester. Like it was like, it was that kind of group. So it was like, that group was much more co-ed. So I had a lot more like guy friends in the nerd group. And then my group of like tight girlfriends who were more like well-rounded, they were kind of like, they would take like 2 or 3 AP classes kind of vibe. They had like a group of guy friends that I was like adjacent to, but not really. They would go to parties and I would not get invited, which
I feel that I was on the football team and I didn't go to my first high school party until I was a senior.
Yeah, same. I didn't go to a party until I was a senior. And there was one girl who was like, I remember my friends wouldn't invite me to the parties and I would be so mad. It would hurt my feelings so much.
Just sit at home cutting myself.
Yeah. See, I wasn't that. I would be like babysitting and I'd be like, fuck this.
But yeah, I was same. I was very chameleon in the fact that like I was in IB, so I knew a lot of very smart people. Right. I was on the football team, so I knew a lot of athletes.
IB with CT, that's an amazing combo. Yeah. You're really smart.
That's the next special. IB with CTE.
How many letters can we get in there? Yeah.
But it was same where it was like I was tertiary with all these people, but I wasn't in any of these groups. Right. And some of it was probably my fault, but like I remember I would get bullied a ton. Mm-hmm. So then as I got older and I hit my growth spurt as a senior, I started bullying because I was like, oh, this is how I get attention. That's
the way to do it. Yeah.
Which I feel terrible about. Well, and it lives in my head that I did a snot rocket to some younger kid on the bus and I'll never forget it. And I feel like a piece of shit for doing it. But, intrusive thoughts. But
it happens.
So I completely... can empathize with the situation of being like, oh yeah, I just didn't go to these things.
And I wanted to go. And there was one girl in the group who I remember asking my friends and I was so mad at my friends for going. Cause I was like, if it was me, I would not go if you guys weren't invited.
Why didn't they just invite you?
One girl was like, Grace is a narc. We can't But I have such reputation? A like narc face. Yeah. Like,
you said you're a bad actor, so you're a bad liar.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people were just like, that girl's not cool. Like she does so much school. What a nerd. She plays euphonium. We can't bring her to a party.
Could you rip on the euphonium?
Like, not really. I'm a pretty good piano player, but like euphonium I was like fine at.
Yeah.
When I did marching band for 2 years, we did a Steely Dan show one year. We did Earth, Wind, and Fire one year, so I can play like Peg.
There you go.
Pretty sick.
So when you get to Georgetown, first of all, when you get accepted there, did you kind of, because you're a legacy, were you just kind of like, oh, I'm going to Georgetown, or was it a big deal?
It was like, because that was like one of the schools I wanted to go to, and then that was...
What were the other choices? Yale, Harvard?
It was like, the one I ended up deciding between was UVA and Georgetown. Okay. But that
would have been a much different
experience. Yeah. But then I...
Go party with the Mountaineers.
Yeah.
Or no, that's West Virginia. What's Virginia?
I don't know. Cavaliers. Yeah. My high school mascot is a Mountaineer. Okay. Random. But yeah, Georgetown was just like, I wanted to go there. Like a bunch of my cousins went to Dartmouth and I was like, oh, that could be cool. And then I didn't get in there. So I was like, well, I guess it's Georgetown. I guess that's the decision. But I loved it there. But it was cool getting there because I had been like one of the smart kids in high school. And then going to Georgetown where everyone was like the smartest kid in their grade. Mm-hmm. I was like...
It's comedy in New York.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah. But it was kind of the first time I'd always been funny in my like friend group because I was like, I don't know, you're like a chubby kid in middle school and you're like, I guess I'm hilarious. Yeah. But like,
I learned how to do voices very
and that's a classic.
Just walk through the halls doing Ace Ventura.
And people love that. Like murders.
Yeah.
But I had like
shove you in a locker and punch you in the head.
They say, "Fuck you, we're gonna kill you."
They go, "Oh, that was hilarious!" And you're like, "Thank you."
This will be even funnier. Yeah, that was so you really have CT. The guy who does Ace
Ventura is bleeding.
Yeah, that's a good combo. But yeah, then I just got there and I was like, "Oh, you're not the smartest kid anymore. Like, what else differentiates you?" And then I was like, "Oh, I'm actually like really funny." That was like the first time I realized. And then at college, I became a huge drinker.
That's what I want. Okay, that's
huge drinker.
You knew where we were going.
I did. Yeah, it took us an hour to get here, but yeah, I was like, I was a huge drinker in college. Well, I drank that summer before. Okay. And I was like, and so the other thing is,
were you doing the thing like I'm about to go to college?
I was like, I got into college. I remember the first night I ever got like drunk was like me and my friends from high school. I gotten probably accepted to. We'd all gotten knew where we were going to college that month. Yeah. And it was like one of my friends in her basement at her house in Jersey, and she just like, her mom I don't think was home, but we just like, we made like Pina Coladas or something stupid, and then we had some other alcohol, I don't know where we got it, but like we just drank to get drunk to like try it. Yeah. And it was like my 3 best friends at the time, we just like
This is 2 months into summer? You said it's a month before you go to...
No, this was like a month after getting accepted. So this was like the end of senior year.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Probably like April, May.
Okay, so you're still
we're-
like, yeah.
So we're
I
still
thought
in
you
school.
waited till the end of summer.
No.
To be like, let's try
I was
it
like,
now.
and then that whole summer, I was like, let's party. This is sick. And then I started getting invited to the parties, and everyone was
Because they
always
knew you
like,
weren't a narc anymore.
and then they were like, Grace is kind of crazy. So then that was like the parties started coming in, and I was like, oh, I love this. And like, I just like to chat. I like to hang out. Like,
Yeah.
And the drinking aspect, I was just like, this is awesome. This
Yeah.
is really fun.
It's the best.
It's really fun.
I love it.
But yeah, so that was kind of like dove in. And then so my family, this is like kind of complicated. I'll say it as simply as possible. My dad's side of the family, a lot of my extended family lives in Colombia.
Okay.
And they have like a big like family. We have like a family business. That's why my last name is Lobo. Like it's all a weird like. But anyway, we sometimes will go down to Colombia to like visit them, and our family is like company.
Oh, Colombia. Not like Columbia, South Carolina.
Like Colombia,
like Bogota, Colombia.
COLOM, BIA. Yeah. So we had a big like the summer. My family has this like business in Colombia that's been around for like 150 years.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's a sugar business. But they had
There's
like
a lot of cane, sugar cane.
and it is just regular sugar cane. But
It's not cocaine.
they like had this like 150th like anniversary of the company or whatever. So like everyone from the US like flew down, and like
Was this that summer?
this was the summer before college.
Yeah.
And in Colombia the drinking age is 18, like loosely. Like you can
Well, so your last name is Wolf. You can do whatever the
yeah.
fuck
I
you
was like,
want.
I'm running this country
I'm a
now.
Lobo.
Yeah. So we went down, and it was like,
La Lobo Negra.
yeah, that's me.
The Black Wolf.
The Black Wolf, that's me. The Red Wolf, yeah. It was-
Oh yeah, because of the hair. That would have been awesome.
But then we just went
Just
down, and
walk
it
in.
was, ooh, yeah. I should get a better wolf noise. But that was the summer before, and like
Are you with your like family, like your parents?
all three of my brothers,
Everyone's
my
just getting hammered?
cousins. My mom doesn't drink, but like everyone's getting hammered. And I knew at the time I was 17, but like it was like obviously
Yeah.
I was going to drink in Colombia, and like every event.
I love how we go from you being a narc to
Yeah.
obviously at 17 I was going to drink in
No,
Colombia.
I literally flipped a switch. I was like, this is who I am now. I am drunk.
This is my identity.
My mom saw me take a shot because in Colombia they have this drink called aguardiente, which is like it's like a licorice kind of flavored. It's disgusting. And
Do you speak Spanish?
a little bit. I'm actually going to Costa Rica on Wednesday. I've been like really practicing because I'm like, I used to speak better Spanish. I spent a summer in Colombia once, and like at that point in my life, I did speak pretty good Spanish.
Yeah.
But we're just getting like hammered, and my mom saw me take a shot of aguardiente and it's just open bars. It's like a wedding every single night of this
Yeah.
trip because they're doing this big celebration. I can't handle myself around an open bar. Every time I'm at an open bar, I'm like, I'm trying to beat the house. Like that's what
Yeah.
I want.
Let's drink so much to put these people out of business.
I want to. It's like the same way with unlimited sushi. Like I'm like, I want you to lose money on my being at your
Yeah.
restaurant. Like this is, but
Not knowing that it's all worked into the price.
yeah,
You're just
exactly.
like, nah.
I can beat this. But I was just, and my mom saw me take a shot at one point, and she came up to me like maybe later that night, and I was drunk. It was like my first time talking to my mom while I was drunk, and she was like, that didn't look like it was the first time you ever took a shot. And I was like, nope, it was not.
Mom, we're doing pina coladas in the
Please,
basement.
Mom, you don't know.
This.
We're doing pina coladas in the basement, listening to the Lion King soundtrack. It's pretty crazy. Because when you're drunk, you do know all the words to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
When I'm sober, I know all the
same.
words.
Yeah. Masimania. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Exactly.
So, did you get in any sort of trouble, or was your mom just like,
No, on that
chill
trip,
out?
no. My mom was kind of like chill out, and then that trip culminated in an event where we were going to see a speech by the president of Colombia. The president of the country of Colombia came to our family's like event, and it was like
just sugar?
just sugar. So I am like, I've been partying this whole week, and when you're 17, you can kind of bounce back a little better. But there was the day we were going, it was just every night, because it's also my cousins who live in Colombia who are fully Colombian, and they're like, we're going to do shots of all this because they want to show the Americans a good time and all this stuff. So we're just getting hammered every single night. One of the nights we I must have just gotten so drunk. And I remember waking up the next morning. We had to go to this event with the president of Colombia. That was an all-day event. It's like 100 degrees, like 90% humidity on this like jungle, like house, whatever. And we're there.
Yeah, we know Colombia. It's hot.
I was on we had to take a bus on these like awful roads. Most hungover I've ever been in my entire life. You're just rocky, like
every time you hit a bump, you think
I was like, I'm gonna puke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna puke. I'm sitting next to my cousin who, at the time, she's 4 years younger than me. At the time, was like 13, and she's like thinks I'm gonna die because she's not drinking, but she's like, oh my god, Grace is like falling apart. And we finally get to this event. I'm like throwing up in the porta potties. It's awful. And it's all, we're just there waiting to see the president of Colombia like give a speech. But we're there at like 11 a.m. and he doesn't go on until like 5 or 6 p.m. And I'm just like, there's photos from that day. I look like I've been to war. Like, it's just like, there's makeup like melting down my face. I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine.
I'm good. I'm good.
But yeah, I did throw up in an event with the president of Colombia, and that's on it. That's poli-sci. That's international relations right there. Yeah.
When did the stealing thing happen?
So in college, this was also, I was trying to beat the house at an open bar. Because this was when I was in college, I worked for this like student-run company. And that was just, we drank constantly as well. That was like, you could drink on the job. It was very fun. And I went to we had this like fundraiser event that was called like Corp Gala, and they rented out this like fancy like auditorium in DC. So I went to that, and it was the thing at an open bar where there's such a long line that like getting a drink takes like 20 minutes. And so I was like,
and a lot of times they won't give you two.
Yes, they wouldn't.
Like, no, you can only do one.
They would only give you one at a time. And it was like $90 to get in, which for a college student is especially like
I'm 36 and $90
and it was
just
like
to go to a party. I'd be like,
It was a lot, and it was a fundraiser, so it was like, and it was like at a bougie like thing, so it was like, this is kind of our fun. It was around Christmas too, so it was kind of a fun like end of semester.
And are you 21 at this point?
At this point, yes.
Okay.
But I think I did also go while I was underage. But I went, this was when I was 21.
You ran the thing, so you're just
please. I was like, I work here.
I wonder how I'm going to find a wristband.
Do you guys know the president of Colombia? Please. So I went in and I was like, kept trying to get drinks. And like, at first we got there because it's open bar. So we were like, we're not going to pregame. We're going to get there sober, get our money's worth. Yeah. So we got there early. The first couple of drinks, you get them pretty easily. And as the night's going on, you're waiting in lines to get these drinks. They're taking forever. So finally, at one point, I don't know what came over me. I'm in like a formal dress as well. I was like, they're clearly keeping the alcohol. They had the tables and it was like white tablecloths over it. I was like, they clearly have a lot of alcohol underneath this white tablecloth. So it's a very crowded line. I kind of just like, I wanted wine. I got down and I just kind of reached my hand under the bar and I felt around, found a case of bottles. And I was like, I just found a case of wine. This is awesome. Pull it up, pull it out, kind of like scurry away a little bit and stand up and realize I'm holding like a full handle of like New Amsterdam vodka, like this big. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit. So now I'm on the dance floor in like a group of my friends who have been trying to get drinks for like an hour with just a full handle of vodka. And I was like, I'm the hero of this event.
Was everyone
like,
psyched?
Yeah, everyone was psyched. And it started being like,
put you up on their
it started being like, Grace
shoulders.
Lobo has a handle of vodka. Yeah. If you guys don't want to skip the line, Grace Lobo has a handle of vodka.
So you didn't get caught?
So I didn't that time because we were trying to be like, well, then I'd had quite yeah. Crazy Wolf is back.
The Red Wolf.
Yeah. So I was like, I now have this handle of vodka. This is awesome. That's gotta be
the title of the episode now. The Red Wolf.
The Red Wolf. Yeah, that's me. El Lobo Rojo. Or I guess it would be Loba Roja. I got to do the feminine. Yeah. But I steal this handle of vodka. I'm passing it around. I'm like, this is sick. We're all chugging the vodka. And then I was like, the thrill of stealing the vodka from the open bar, my God, unbeatable. So I was like, I'm going to do it again.
Uh-oh.
And this time, the guy,
you're a little sloppier,
I'm drunker, I'm cocky. The guy reaches down. He's getting a drink. He's pulling up a new handle as I'm getting the next
so it was just a timing
fresh
issue.
handle. And he sees me down there. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I dropped my earring. I'm trying to find it. Quick on my feet.
Very quick. That's where the comedy comes in.
That crowd work brain. But I'm like, I'm looking for my earring. At the time, I did not have pierced ears. So that was... I was, oh my God, I'm looking for my earring, but silly me, I'm so drunk. And he kind of bought it, but he didn't. He was
No,
like,
he knew,
he
but-
goes, if I see you down here again, you're out of here. And then I was like, all right, I flew too close to the sun.
Yeah.
But I didn't get kicked out. I was like, okay, I got
You almost got kicked.
I got the one handle of vodka.
It is because working in the restaurant industry,
what a dick that I was being. Like,
well, and we have like the lines are long for a reason
Yes.
because it's an open bar.
Yeah.
So like managers will be like, take your time making
Sure.
the drinks. Don't make sure.
Yes.
Like we do all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like if someone's hammered when they come into the restaurant,
Totally.
they order a drink. I'll be like, yeah, sure.
water it down a little. Yeah.
Not only that, but it's like you'll get the order first. You'll bring out bread. You're like, and then they'll be like, "Hey, where's my drink?" And you're
Yep.
like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I forgot."
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't forget, bro. You're wasted.
Yeah. You don't need another drink. You need a water.
I've had tables before where they've been like so drunk, and they'll ask for another drink, and then I'll bring them their drink, and then I'll just drop the check off. And they'll be like, "Oh," and I'll be like, "No.
That's it.
Yeah,
you're gonna pay.
We're good."
Yeah. I've also like worked in restaurants as well and been a bartender, and like it's so funny because like
Could you imagine someone reaching over your bar, break their hand?
I'd kill him. Like, yeah, I'd be like, "Do you want to die?" Like that's.
Picked an awkward day
But
to
like
die.
as a child, I was 21, but I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna take this. There's
mine
no
now.
rules against this. I could just reach under the bar. They can't even see me. I was in like a little tiny cocktail dress, just like la la la.
I thought it was a formal dress.
It was like it wasn't quite formal. It was
Okay.
like but it was still
So
like
it wasn't
I was
like a
dressed
super
up.
long
No,
gown.
but it was like a little black.
I was picturing you in like a Met
prom
Gala
dress.
sort of dress.
No, I
yeah.
was. Yeah.
All right, we have time for one more, and then we're
Oh,
gonna have to
hell
have
yeah.
you back on because we still have so many stories.
I know.
Do you want to do the window or the all nighter?
Oh, I'll tell you the window because that's college. That's
Okay.
kind of on the same. Okay, so when I was in college, not supposed to drink underage, and you're not really supposed to drink.
I think that's just like a law thing,
You know,
not
it's
really a
not
college
like,
thing.
yeah, you're not supposed to drink legally when you're underage.
Like, that's just a thing.
So, well, I didn't get in trouble with the police. I got in trouble with the campus police because
Okay.
we would have parties at my apartment. We're having the improv. It probably was the improv team at my apartment. I think it was that night. So we're having a party at my apartment, and we're just like, whatever. It gets broken up by the on-campus police. At the time, I'm probably 19. They come over, and I had already gotten written
So
up.
real quick, just because you had just campus police, not actual
Campus police,
okay,
which is a very different.
yeah, because at FAU. We contracted out the Boca Raton Police
Whoa.
Department. So we didn't have campus security. We had cops, real
We
cops.
had Metro PD could come,
Yeah.
like DC Metro could come and.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like
Yeah.
we didn't have like
No, we had the
security
Georgetown
for the
Mall
camp.
cops.
We
That
had
was-
cops.
that's crazy.
That's how I got my first two arrests was because campus police would come to my door and I'd cuss them out. And it's like, oh no, that's a real police
That's
officer.
a real cop. That's
Yeah.
a real cop. You're gonna want to take it easy. They
Tone
have
it
a gun.
Doesn't matter how pre-law you are.
Yeah, they have
you're
a
gonna-
gun, so maybe chill.
So you had campus police come.
We had campus police come, which is way better.
Yeah.
And they had come, they'd given us a warning. They were like, you're being too loud or whatever. And we were like, sure. Kept being loud. They kick
an
everybody.
improv
They
troupe.
kick exactly. They're crazy, these improv kids. So they kick everybody out and they say, everybody leave except for the people who live here. And I, at the time, had gotten written up. I gotten written up like a month earlier in the semester because I was carrying a bottle of wine in a bag, but to like my friend's apartment, and a woman
And you all live on campus.
all live on campus.
Okay.
So you could have alcohol on campus if you were 21.
Yeah, our rule was if you're over 21, you can have 6 beers per person who's over 21.
That's a good number of beers.
Or 1 bottle of wine per person for whoever's over 21.
Interesting.
And if they came to your dorm room or your student
Yeah,
apartment and say you had 3 people that were all 21, but you had 20 beers,
Yeah.
they'd make you pour 2 of the beers out.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting.
Yeah, they
that's
were
a crazy dynamic.
Yeah, they were pretty strict about
You
it.
couldn't be stocking up on beers.
Yeah,
You couldn't
one
have that
six-pack
single
per
dad
person, yeah.
fridge.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, we had. You could. Well, I only lived on campus while I was underage. I moved off campus once I was 21, but you could have alcohol if you were legal, but like you just weren't supposed to have it. But they came to our door, knocked. They said, everyone who doesn't live here, get out. If you live here, go get your go card.
Wait, real quick on the first write-up.
Yeah.
You were just walking.
I was just walking around, and this cop, like a campus cop, again, stopped us and was like, "What do you guys have?" And I illegally bought alcohol with a fake ID, so it was like, but we did fight it because she was like, we were like, we did just have it in a bag. You just stopped us, and we're like, "What do you have?"
What is it, stop and frisk?
It
What
was
are we
stop
doing?
and frisk,
Yeah.
and then we went to the and also there's like a student legal-ish thing, and
The
it was
student
like
council,
and the
then,
kids at Georgetown who were doing it are so like, we're gonna fight for your, like, it was
because they're trying to be legit.
they're trying to be like a
lawyers, yeah.
politician. So it was like I had to go into them and be
It's
like,
so funny,
we
like,
gotta fight this.
Running for city council. Just graduated from Georgetown. Actually got 5 people
yeah.
off on underage
I got
drinking
people on
charges.
underage drinking. It was stop and frisk. Yeah. It was Lady Cop.
Unconstitutional, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of the Constitution.
You actually can't stop and frisk people. They have freedom to carry a bottle
4,
of wine.
6, 7. I could go on with the Bill of Rights.
They get to carry it. But it was a silly
So you're already on thin ice.
So I'm scared, and then they were like, go into your room and get your student ID. So I'm like, it was a 3-bedroom apartment that we lived in, and it was 2 doubles and 1 single. And me and my roommate Claire go into our room, and I was like, fuck, I already got written up. Like, I can't get written up again. And she was like, I understand. And I was like, I'm not going back up there with my ID and giving it to them. So we lived on the first floor, and I was like, I'm going to make a run for it.
So it's one of those ones where you walk in and then you go down.
You walk in and you go down.
Yeah,
and it was like, and then the living room was up, and you went even further down to get to the bedroom.
Yeah.
So we lived in like a
We had
dungeon.
one of those,
It was very lovely. It was gross, but I was like, I have to go. And she was like, it was a very beautiful moment. She really,
like, I got you.
she really fell on her sword for me. And she was like, we'll take this. You get out of here. You can't have another write-up. So while they're upstairs, I open the window. I climb out and just run from the apartment. I don't bring anything. I don't bring my phone. I don't bring
keys, nothing.
Nothing. Maybe I brought keys, but I was like, in my imagined version of the story, I'm like not wearing shoes. I'm pretty sure I was wearing shoes,
Yeah.
but I just ran, and there was a late night food place near our apartment. I just ran there, and there were a bunch of people who'd been kicked out of the party, and they were all there, and I ran in like out of jail basically, and all these people who had been at my party were like, Grace, you made it, and I was like, I had to leave them all behind, but
say Wattanejo.
Yeah, I was like, and someone's got to buy me pizza here because I don't have any money.
So what happened with Claire?
They all got
the cops aren't
ding
idiots.
on their,
were they like, hey, where's that other person?
They were like, what are you talking about? There's
they gaslit the campus cops?
Yeah, they were like, there's only 4 of us here. And they gaslit. They really good friends. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. What do you mean? There's only 4. Our other roommate, Grace, she's been out of town.
I can neither confirm nor deny that there's even another roommate that lives here.
Yeah, this is a 4-person apartment. What are you talking about? That's
2 singles and a double.
That's
what
crazy.
Are we doing?
We would never have 5 in this. This is crazy. I know every other apartment like this has 5 people, but not ours. That would never.
So you got off.
So I got away. Yeah.
Wow.
And so then we all had an equal level of dings on our record. We each had
they're all even now.
And no one ever, they're all Claire's married now and
that's the thing
in med school.
That's the funny thing about it is it seems getting a write-up seemed like the worst thing because I would always forego the write-ups.
Sure.
Because at one point I was sleeping with my RA.
Sure.
So I was never getting written up. But a lot of times it would be the RAs would show up.
Right.
And then if it was they'd just be like, yo, call but again, because they were regular cops, you're not getting written up.
No, you're getting arrested. Yeah.
So it's we didn't have, but I know how terrifying it could be because I know at a lot of schools, if you get 2 or 3 write-ups, you go on academic probation, you can get suspended, you can get expelled
financial
from the
aid,
school.
You can get, it's
so it's a big deal.
Yeah, no, I was like, this is not.
Let's talk about this, you guys.
Yes, yeah. Hang on, let's all be cool. But yeah, that was the coolest.
I'm just gonna go this way.
I'm just gonna fully, and then that became a thing where every time I'd be at a party and the cops would show up, I was immediately I'm going for the I'm going for the fence in the back. I became such a flight person, and which is so shitty because
severe flight risk.
Yeah, I know. She will run. She doesn't need shoes or a wallet or a phone or keys, but she's running
She'll
for the
just
cops.
take off.
Yeah, and she'll steal alcohol. That was my.
I remember that was always my instinct. And at one party, it was one of the biggest football parties I went to in college.
Yeah.
The cops showed up and they're like, same thing.
Yeah.
Whoever doesn't live here, get out. And I was like, okay, I'm out of here.
I don't.
Bye.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing where I was stupid. I was like, why didn't I just
leave
go?
with
All
everyone
right,
else?
see you guys.
Yeah.
This is your.
It's because you're a good person. So that natural instinct to be like, oh well, I do.
I honestly, I'm such a my least favorite type of person is you're in line with someone and it's you're not gonna make it, but I have to go through. I don't know. When you're in a group and they're like, okay, we can let you're in a group of 4 and they're like, we can let 3 of you in. And there's a friend who's like, okay, bye, see ya. That's not the.
I'm like, well, then we're obviously.
I guess we're all gonna go sit in worse seats.
Yeah.
That's the
But I remember at this party, some of the other upperclassmen were like, no, we're football players. Because it was at a football player's house. So they were like,
we go down with the ship.
Yeah, we stay.
I love that.
And I was because I'm a rule follower.
Yeah,
I was
same.
panicking. I was like, no, they said leave. I don't live here. I'm going to leave. And they go, none
No,
of the
the
football
fuck
players
you're
are
not.
leaving. And
That's
I was like,
cool. I really like that.
oh, this is terrible. I was
Those
so
burrowing
like,
owls, they
we stick together,
stand by
man.
their man. Yeah, they're
Nothing like the Hoyas, though.
Yeah,
Claire,
well,
shout out.
yeah.
She's going to be
She's-
like listening to this, being like, I'm in med school. Stop talking
Yeah,
about
stop
me.
talking about me getting in trouble in college. I'm almost a doctor. What are you doing? I have a husband and I'm almost a doctor.
God, that's so funny. Plug everything one more time.
Okay, so you can follow me. I'm at GK Lobo on Instagram. I'm Hello Grace Lobo on TikTok if you care about that. I have a show called Pucker Comedy. It's at Pucker Comedy on Instagram. Please come. Our next one's April 3rd at Feeney Pizza in Williamsburg. And I would love if you listen to my podcast, which is at Hill to Die on Pod on Instagram.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming
Literally,
on.
I could talk to you for 3 more hours.
Yeah,
Thank you for
we gotta
having
do it
me.
again because we still have the shrooms, the New York
I know,
all-nighter.
I gotta go through.
We got to talk more about Colombia.
I know, we got to get more in there.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. At Brennan T. Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the Bro Adjacent Tour. I will be in Connecticut, Boston, Florida, New York, California. And then LA was great because by the time you're listening to this, I'm already back and had so much fun at the Comedy Store. Great place, you know.
Oh, yeah.
No biggie.
Yeah.
Hard flex. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Hell yeah.
That's it.
Woo!